It's becoming a predictable pattern. First comes the bad news.
Right.
Medibank reporting unusual activity on its network last week. Then, the assurances.
It's an amazing feeling.
At this stage, there is no evidence that any customer data has been accessed.
And today, the ransom note. Hackers sending Medibank some of its stolen info, including addresses, phone numbers and details of medical procedures, reportedly threatening to release the personal records of 1,000 high-profile customers.
In the worldwide standard for privacy and data protection, medical records, that's about as serious as it gets because you can tell a lot of things about a lot of people. Worst case, they may even be exposed to blackmail or something, that's sort of sexual problems or psychiatric problems or drug problems.
As Medibank works with authorities to verify the threat, its 3.9 million customers endure an anxious wait.
The problem with medical data like this is it's immutable. You can never change it. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. You can't go and rotate your passwords. You can't get a new driver's license.
If it is gone, it could easily be anywhere in the world and duplicated multiple times in seconds. It can be a long-term risk, even a lifelong hazard.
After similar attacks on Woolies, Vinomofo and Optus, Medibank customers are just the latest victims of a massive post-pandemic cybercrime wave.
Interpol is meeting at the moment in New Delhi, so this is the heads of police forces all over the world. Cybercrime is their #1 crime concern of the moment.
The scale of the threat is staggering. The ATO today revealing it fends off around 3 million cyber attacks a month.
I think we're in the order of 5 years behind where we need to be on our cyber laws and our policies and our approaches.
So how can we hold back the tide?
Well, Fergus Hanson is one of the good guys. He's with the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Excuse me. Now, Fergus, 3 million attempted hacks in a month. It seems like an extraordinary number, but how many of those actually keep you awake at night?
Well, I think we've only got a partial picture of how Australia's being impacted by things like ransomware. We've got these disclosures like Optus and now Medibank, but most of these cases don't actually get reported, and it's just through anecdotal evidence or talking with the lawyers or insurance companies that are working with them that you get a sense of the volume, and there are a lot more than we're seeing, and I think that quite a few of them are in fact concerning.
This information is just about as sensitive as it gets. If you're Medibank, do you just pay the ransom?
Well, it's going to be really difficult for them. The conundrum that they're up against is if you pay a ransom, you're just making more and more companies vulnerable to being struck by cyber attacks. So ideally, you don't want to pay a ransom, but they're really being held over the barrel here. The cyber criminals are threatening to release sensitive information to their 1,000 most prominent clients. So it's really difficult, the situation they're being put in. And you imagine if you're a Medibank customer, you're just saying, pay the ransom because I don't want my information out there. But the problem with that is it's going to encourage more ransomware attacks in Australia and more healthcare companies being hit.
In the space of a week, we've gone from unusual activity to stolen detailed medical records. Are companies doing customers dirty by downplaying these attacks?
Yeah, I think it's important not to sort of victimise the companies here. It's important that they are being upfront and disclosing what they're finding out. These situations usually aren't very clear from the beginning. It takes a long time to work out exactly what happens, and we've seen a rolling series of disclosures, halting trading on the stock exchange. I think that's pretty good practice for being upfront with people, but it's really important that companies are coming forward and going into this continuous disclosure process. And I think we've got to get used to it as citizens, that we can't just get all the answers on day one. It is going to take some time to find out, but we need ongoing scrutiny, and we need to have follow-up for these companies that are hit.
Fergus, there'll be a lot of people watching this. They're worried, they're freaking out. Can you put them at ease? You've got this, haven't you?
Yeah, I wish I could. I think it's too late for the clients of Medibank, unfortunately. What could put people at ease is, depending on how this situation is resolved, their data may not be disclosed publicly, so they may not have that information out there. They may not be the victims of fraud or identity theft because it ends with the cyber criminals. So it's not the end of the story here. It's really important on how this is resolved. So it's not all doom and gloom necessarily.
Look, Fergus, it sounds like we are just looking at the very tip of the iceberg when it comes to this style of things. So we do appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks so much for having me.